Hi, welcome to Something to Offer. I'm Dontoya Thomason, and today I have my husband back, Adam Thomason, because not just because I'm like can't get anybody else. I got big things coming up. My husband has written a book that comes out this week. It's already out by this point, and it's a beautiful book. It is called Permission to Be Black: My Journey with Jay-Z and Jesus. Y'all, it's so beautiful. I hope you can see that cover. He looks so good. It's so good. But after last week's episode, talking with Christina Mineo and hearing from all different people, especially from Latin descent, saying like we need more conversations about what it means to be yourself, what it means to be a Latin. That was so moving. That was so inspirational. His book is perfect timing because it really has been a journey for Adam to get the therapy and the love and everything he needed to see that he had permission to be his full self. And so that's what we talk about today. The book, he's actually, the author name is A.D. Lumkile Thomason, so don't let that confuse you. He actually was given a name, and he will tell you about that in this episode. This is a fun episode. It's a very informational episode. I want to talk about all the anecdotes from this book. He has so many funny stories about his childhood and things that happened. And really how those things translate into how we can have the permission to be black, but really how we can have permission to be ourselves. We've had white friends from all over the place read this book and say, this makes me want to be more of myself because that's what God intended for me to be. So I think this is a great conversation. You can always learn something from Adam. There's definitely some funny stories, and this is just a really fun book. And so I really hope that you'll enjoy the episode and then go get the book. Amazon, really anywhere books are sold. So check it out. Okay, as I said, I have my husband back with me, A.D. Lumkile Thomason. Now, I want to talk about this because the last time I introduced you, your name was Adam Thomason, right? You're still my husband, but now I'm saying Permission to Be Black is out, and it says it's by A.D. Lumkile Thomason. So I want you to tell the people, how'd you get the name Lumkile? Or give me the spill on A.D. Lumkile. Obviously, A.D., your name's Adam David.
Right.
That's your middle name.
Mm-hmm.
Lumkile, though, that's special. You were gifted that name. Is that correct?
I was gifted that South Africa. I was talking to, I would say, a friend of mine who speaks Xhosa, and his name is Abba.
Wow. Fancy.
And after 6 hours, he was more kind of impressed, is what he would say, of my approach to talk with him 6 hours and explain to him the difference between the Jesus, white Jesus, and the what I would say the true Yeshua. Mm-hmm. So Lumkile in Xhosa means the wise one.
Okay. Because he's not a believer, and he felt like you're wasting your breath and your time. Mm-hmm. But you were patient in trying to explain Yeshua to him, and so he was like, bro, I got to give you a name. Is that what it was like?
Yeah, and at that time we were talking about how people from my experience, people from the continent of Africa can look down on African Americans like we put ourselves
right
on the boat,
like we enslaved ourselves.
Yeah, and so I said, like, man, we need y'all are like a missing link to the things we're trying to find out. Mm-hmm. And so between that conversation, he just said, okay, well, let's get you started with a Xhosa name. Mm-hmm. Lumkile as well.
So why did you choose, I think my answer just came to me, but why did you choose on this book to have that as your name instead of just putting Adam Thomason?
Just that identification of blackness, like trying to get back to my roots. In some way, I felt like I wanted to honor him, and there are a few times where I felt like this is what Jesus would have done. And so I felt in talking to him for 6 hours and how the Lord allowed me to navigate that conversation. That I literally I was like, this is how Yeshua would have done it. Mm-hmm. And I don't have many of those times where I could say that. Yeah. So it's just a lot surrounding Lumkile.
Dope.
Yeah.
You should have brought home an African name for me. I feel like Adam goes out of town, he brings stuff home. He don't bring me anything sometimes. So.
Well, you got a better black African name than
Dontoya.
Dontoya is better than
I
Adam.
think that's African though. It's African
It's black.
American.
It's roots. It ain't colonized.
Shout out to my mom. When I was
Yeah.
younger, I struggled with that name, and my mom, she gave me that name, so that is an inheritance from
Yeah.
her. So shout out to my mom, Shannon, with the classic name, giving me that ethnic name that I can be proud of.
Yeah. So you don't have a colonized name.
I don't have a colonized name.
Adam is very colonized.
Although everybody calls me Dawn, whether I
You should tell them call you Dontoya.
let them or not. Okay, so Permission to be Black. First of all, if you're listening to this, you can't see it, but you're going to buy the book anyway, so it doesn't matter. But this cover to me is beautiful.
Yeah, they killed him.
It's beautiful. But did you kind of do the art direction though?
Yeah, I came up with the vision and art direction, but them landing it,
yeah,
the matte finish, the raised gold
so
letters,
beautiful,
the fonts and stuff like that. But yeah, our team, we came up. I drew it out. The team, we brought it to manifestation, and then
Now I've heard you do like the most interviews I've ever heard you do in your entire life in this last couple weeks leading up to this book. So let me just say, I'm going to try my best to not make this like cliche and asking you those same questions that everybody's asking you. And so are you ready to answer hopefully some different questions? I mean, it's nothing wild, but I'm like, I don't want to know about your journey. I want to know why you wrote some of the things that you wrote in here, because the thing I like about this book is the format. It's really easy to read to me because you have like a specific format that you laid out, where you said you were going to do not an anecdote, but a piece of your story normally is first in a chapter. Then you can tell it better than I can. Okay, but then it goes into I have it down here. You have historical reflections, okay, and then you usually have a cheat code. Yeah. And we mentioned that in the last episode where like after counseling, cheat code, like when you play a video game. I never knew the cheat codes. I never really got to play all the games because I'm the sister in the middle of two brothers, so I never really got to like get on video games like that. But in video games, usually you can find a cheat code and you can figure out, you get shortcuts, you get like extra powers, extra lives.
Contra is the ultimate cheat code, 30 men.
See, I'm lost already. See, I blame.
Shout out to my Nintendo people.
Shout out to my brothers for never letting me play. So you have a section called cheat codes where you give like, basically, hey, I learned this in counseling and I'm going to share it with you. Yeah. Right? And is that the gist of it? Is that the whole of each chapter basically?
Yeah, no, that's the framework.
Okay. So before I move to because I need to talk about these reflections. Some of them are hilarious. Some involve me, and I need to clear up a couple things. Like
you don't need to clear them.
Nothing
needs to be cleared up.
Well, maybe. Okay, but first, why did you think that people need permission to be Black? I mean, you obviously went through all this stuff. Yeah. Why did you think, somebody else might need this permission?
Yeah, because I think, and I love it because real Black folks, and I'm saying that facetiously, would say like, man, I don't need no permission, Yeah. But it's not in the connotation of what people assume. It's just more of like historically trying to make it in this world. The best illustration that I think people would get is Dave Chappelle. He gave himself permission to walk away from the Chappelle show to be his fullest self. Right. A lot of people need that permission because on the flip side, they couldn't understand why he would walk away with millions on the table because they see success as needed and you stuff yourself. Yeah, right. To get the results. Yeah. And I do think a lot of people, because if you look at how the world responded to Dave Chappelle, a lot of people don't have the permission to be their fullest selves, and they would have did that and hated themselves.
They were shocked.
Exactly. And he was saying like, I didn't like that. I wouldn't have been able to live with myself how they were responding to the jokes I was writing. Yeah. So when I say permission to be Black, people as an umbrella, I'm saying Black folks as an umbrella, we've had to stuff ourselves to make it. Yeah. There's a time historically where we had to do that to literally stay alive. To be alive, right. Right, because it was legally illegal for us to be our fullest selves without death.
Gosh, that's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. And then after the laws changed, we still got lynched. Yeah. Right? We still got bombed in churches. And then fast forward, still churches get shot up. Right. So there still is this trauma of Now, I can serve my fullest self
That's true.
behind the closed doors, and I live a version of myself. But what's happening is it's causing mental problems. It's causing autoimmune problems, health problems. And so what I'm saying is permission to be black. We need to be our fullest selves for health reasons, mental reasons. And I do believe if God created you to be your fullest self, you're missing out on bringing your fullest self, and then people are missing out on seeing your fullest self.
Right. Now, I just like to push back just to push back.
Yeah, push back.
I completely agree. I feel like I feel so much freedom trying to be my full self. But what if I'm like a hood dude and somebody's like, yo, you ain't going to get no job being your fullest self? People say that all the time. They say, hey, I'm not asking you not to be black. I'm asking you to be business.
But we've defined what business is.
Correct.
See, on all those things I could get, like, we've defined it. We've allowed, it's like Andrew Jackson when he took away the land from Native Americans. He literally is on record saying they are not civilized.
Right.
And so we know what to do with this land.
Yeah.
So if they go through our schools, learn the language, and do all these things, and prove themselves to be civilized, then they can get the land back. We've allowed this umbrella to be defined on what it means to be business, or what it means to. And I'm just arguing, God has allowed culture and expressions to exist which aren't sinful for the sake of expanding our human understanding.
Right. But at the same time, so they created this sinful arc that you got to be this to get a job, you got to be this, and you know, and we're in a sinful, like, fallen world, so that is upon people. So there are people that do have to do that in order to work. I mean, not everybody is as multifaceted and as multi-talented as you. You have so many. Adam is an enigma. Like, he has so many talents, and I believe by the grace of God that we will never go hungry, because you will go juggle in the street or tap or cook or write, you know, because you just have an arsenal. But there's some people that's just like, I need to work within this system in order to have a job. Do you have grace on those people? Or I guess my question is, somebody might listen to this and go, I get that, but can I be black at home? Like, you know, that's what we do. We do that. Or at least what encouragement, because you've been in jobs where, you know, churches have said, hey, you're tall, you're dark skinned, wear these glasses. It makes you more approachable.
Yeah, wear these clothes, change your hair, things like that. If somebody's listening, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Not a message. Yeah. If somebody's listening and they say, like, hey, I need to, I don't know, I feel like I need to live this way in order to, you know, make ends meet, so to speak.
Yeah.
This book is not trying to convince people the way they're quote unquote living is wrong and I'm right. What I'm saying is, God wants us to have a freedom and a joy despite the results. Right. So in my head, it's what Yeshua says. What does it profit you?
Yeah, that's so
to
true.
Gain that piece of the world, but you lost your soul. We always think about salvation. It's not just merely about salvation. You're losing who you are.
The very essence of your person is the soul.
For bread. And I'm just saying, a loving God wouldn't want that for you. Now, if I'm keeping it 100, I think the colonized God has flooded the minds of people, and we've bought that he wants that for us.
Right.
In the sense of, you know, just be patient or trust him or Beulah land, like heaven in the by and by.
Yeah.
And I'm going, nah, like, that's not the real God.
That's true. Isn't it funny, just as a side note, that all the colonizers or the people that take on that Western Christianity want you to wait till Beulah land by and by to be yourself, but they're not willing. Yeah, but they get to be their full self.
White people are their full self.
Yeah. I mean, unless they don't, you know, or, you know, maybe everybody doesn't want to dress like that. Maybe they've just bought into...
Dress like what?
Khakis and, like, you know, I'm overly stereotyping. But, you know, I'm saying, I've heard many people say, I've said it before, that whiteness in and of itself is not a real race. You know, there's many different groups among these people who have their own cultures and their own backgrounds, their own dress. Like, you know, my man might want to wear like a kilt or something, but he's like, you know what? To be a part of white American culture, Christianity culture, it's this. So I think there's even freedom, even in reading this book. When I read this book, it wasn't about permission to be black. It was really permission to be yourself. I think it gave license to us to be our fullest, like, black selves. But I think somebody who is not black can read this and be like, yo, I need to be my fullest self for my mental health, for my sanity.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue, well, not even argue, a lot of people who aren't black are reading it and are finding freedom. That's the whole point. Like, when you see permission to be black and then you see me put my, people can link that he's talking about himself and his experiences as a black man. But then when you read, I connect it to, and you have this permission to be you as well. Yeah. And a lot of people are picking up on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I like to do a disclaimer. I know that your mother follows me on social media, and
it's a spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. She listens to. Are you okay with this spoiler alert?
Yeah.
Okay. She listens to my podcast because she says nice things about it. So I love you so much. We are one, but I am not. We are not always one. So in this book,
trying to distance herself from what's coming.
Distance myself. In this book, there's a chapter called Faux Miracle that I want to talk about. Oh Lord, it just stresses me out. I don't know.
I'm so nervous.
So I want to read a little bit, and then I want to let you talk. Okay? I know this might be. So you start the chapter by saying, so it's called Faux Miracle, Just Accept It. Okay. Yeah. There was a faux miracle on Detroit Street that happened when I was young. It was a result of lying for the style. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to jump down. It says, "Can you see that sign?" asked my mom. "No," I replied. "Son," she said, "we are just feet away from the billboard. Are you sure you can't see it?" "No, Mom, I can't see it," I said as I squinted my eyes to blur my vision while we rolled down the highway. "Then we need to go see the eye doctor to get you some glasses," right, she replied. So I'm going to read one more sentence, and then you got some explaining to do.
Some explaining.
The truth was, I could see the billboard, but had decided I wanted to start wearing glasses as a fashion statement. Yeah. So the story goes on that your mom believed later. So you go to school, you wear these glasses. We have a picture. These glasses are not fashionable. They're actually terrible. And as cute as that is,
they're terrible.
They just give you
I don't even know why I like to get that.
They were like,
and it's Detroit. It's like it wasn't helping.
Yeah. And you were how old? You were really young.
It was like 8 to 10 range.
Yeah, you were just a little shoomy doomy doll face in this picture, but you look like you have on Coke bottle glasses. Yeah. Could you even see? Not really.
My brother says that makes sense because you never had them on your face.
So he gets these glasses. He goes to school. It turns out it's not cool to have glasses. I don't know why you chose that fashion statement. You say that yourself. People make fun of you, bully you. So then you're like, I got to get out of these glasses ASAP. You wear them for a couple months. Maybe a couple months. And then you tell your mom.
No, I just stopped wearing them.
And she believes what, Adam?
To this day that I was healed of blindness, yes.
Oh, my. Okay, he said it really fast. I want to slow it down. She believes to this day.
This is in the book.
So, Denise, I hope that this is, we can all laugh about this. He claims that you may,
I think she's gonna laugh and holler.
But he says that this was like in the book you read that it's kind of a part of her testimony that she for years was able to say.
Yeah, she would tell that story.
That God healed Adam of blindness. Yep. Okay, so now you do have a connection in the book about why this faux miracle was still beneficial to your mother, and you even really tie it in beautifully to why it's the tie-in to Black people. But can you tell us why this?
People are like, why haven't you told her? Yeah, and I go, God is not in heaven needing me to tell my mom this truth, though it's out now, to honor her faith. She wanted him. That was to be the whole point of the story. Is he was honoring her faith, her belief. Yeah. Not the son.
Right.
Who obviously was lying.
Right. Okay, so tell me why you justified that it's okay that I'm not going to say you lied for.
I just didn't say anything.
You just didn't say anything. Right.
Yeah. So I lied to get the glasses.
Right.
But I didn't say anything. I didn't step in and say, hey, Mom.
Oh, you sound like the kids. Is that a lie or is that not a lie?
What?
That you didn't say anything for 30.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is that a lie or is it not?
I just sat silent, you know.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. That's why I have you here today to ask you about it. Okay.
Because to me, it go, God blessing my mom wasn't contingent upon me stepping in.
Right. And that is the connection that you make in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, and I believe that no one has God figured out, or no one sees him as clear as they should be.
Yeah.
As he should be.
Yeah.
So his blessings aren't because we see him clearly.
Right.
It's because he's good and he's merciful.
So you just didn't want to ruin that story. You didn't want to ruin what God had done. He did a miracle. He healed you. She told the whole church, I'm assuming. She told all of her friends, and you're like, hey, let her live.
Let her live. Let her have her story.
Okay. Denise, I hope that, your faith, I think that he's right, though. You believe that God provided a miracle because he does.
And he still did. Like, she believed him for some big things.
Yeah,
and he came through.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things, like, her faith isn't decreased.
Yeah.
God still honored the belief that he could heal blindness.
Right.
Which he can.
Right. He can. He just didn't this time, but you are right.
He did not heal me of blindness.
Okay. I can't wait to see what she says about this. Okay. Another fun part of the book, I don't want to give away everything. I'm only doing a few anecdotes, but was the coin drop. And this has come into our marriage to this day. So you went through a season where you wanted to be a magician.
I want to be a magician. I still like the cards.
He does still like tricks. But you were, I'm not saying this like in a shady way, but you were in college, weren't you?
I was in college.
When you wanted to become a magician?
Yeah, I was at Savannah College of Art and Design.
What made you think what made you desire to be a magician?
It's cool, man.
Right.
It's just.
Like, did you see a magic show and it reminded you that
I'll go back to David Copperfield, right? So, David Copperfield, Chris Angel, David Blaine.
I get it, Adam, but you're in college for fashion design.
It don't matter. You're always gonna see some special of magic in some. You're gonna see somebody on the corner. It just is gonna. You go to a carnival, a fair, a state fair. Somebody's gonna be doing magic. It's true. And every time you're gonna stop.
You're amazed.
It don't matter.
That's true.
Who they are. 880, good or bad.
That's
you're like,
true.
You gonna pull off this trick?
Right.
Oh man.
Right. So let's talk about, you were not doing card tricks though, right?
Now at the time I got a beginner's guidebook from Barnes and Noble.
Right. Shout out to Barnes and Noble for making us think we could be magicians.
Exactly. It's like 70 tricks you should know.
Okay. So you started with the coin drop.
Yeah, that was in the coin drop. Because it's like, you don't have to get no props.
Right. So you had a coin.
You had a coin.
And you had your 6'5" black self.
Yeah, you had a coin, and then you had this motion. It's just motion.
So the whole time. Yeah,
you got to work it.
Move your fingers back and forth to disappear. But you say in the book you never quite.
Well, you hold the coin right here.
Yes.
And you're supposed to let it drop and act like you're catching the coin. So it's the illusion of where the coin is in his hand, but it drops in his hand. And people's like, okay, which hand is in? And they're supposed to pick this one, but every time they'll pick this one because my hands, So
is there like a height? No, we have a tall friend. We actually have a friend that is a magician, and he's tall.
Drew. Yeah, yes. I think
Drew
6'4", 6'5".
Yeah. And he's a great magician.
He probably killed a coin.
But I'm like, what about you was not quite? How awful does it feel when they pick the hand?
It just feels bad. But you know what's funny? As you do, you're like, babe, they gonna pick the hand.
Yeah, you already know. You're setting yourself up because you felt that it didn't quite fall soft enough.
Yeah. And you gotta have this swag of deception.
Yes.
About you, and in my head, my face looks like I should pick the opposite hand.
Right, and I'm gonna be honest, Adam's not. I haven't known you to lie. I'm sure in our 14-year relationship, you may have told a lie. No, never. Oh, okay. Well, wow. But you've said before that lying stresses you out.
Oh,
So that to me
a
says
stressful thing.
you could never be a magician.
No. That's why I got to do cards. Like, but even with the cards, I'm like, man, let me make sure I get this card where it's supposed to be, and they ain't looking. You know, it's. I ain't gonna say it's a form of deception.
Yeah, and you're not good at that. Is all I'm saying. As somebody who knows you, who we talk about trying to, like, you know, if you wanted to cheat on a girl in high school or something, you stress to the point where you have to tell them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No. So I don't understand why you thought you could do that. However, it was a beautiful tie-in, which I'd like for you to talk about. This idea that you at 6'5", black guy, obviously not good at the sleight of hand, obviously not good, you know, going around doing these tricks for people. And clearly that's not what you were meant to do.
Yeah.
But in the book, you make a beautiful transition I want you to tell us about.
Yeah, it's just to tie in, because I worked it over and over and over again. Y'all, I worked this trick over and over again. Because I'm going to be a magician. I'm going to do this coin drop. And I said, I feel like that's what we do as black folks. We try to work ourselves into these spaces, into assimilation, you know, to close cultural expressions that are just not, they're not us. Yeah. Right? And that's not what God has for us. And we try to force it. Yeah. And we have to come to the end and say, okay, it was fun trying to do the coin drop, but that is not what God has for me.
Do you feel like leaving the role as a pastor was your saying goodbye to the coin drop, or do you have another instance in your life where you're like, this is truly not what I'm supposed to be, I need to move on?
Yeah, you know what? If I had to say what was saying bye to the coin drop, I definitely would say it is the evangelical world and all the things that it had to offer as far as assimilation, the dress, the style, the thought process, the illustrations, the expression. Yeah. So saying bye to that lens, because here's the thing. In order to quote unquote make it in a world that has determined the preferences and the cultures, you seemingly have to do it that way. Right. And so I was saying bye to, for 17 years I kept my hair short. I talk like y'all, I dress like y'all. And it didn't get me any further. Yeah, right. So in my head I go, if it would have got me further, I was like, there's something to this, maybe. Right. But you have 2 of their degrees at 2 different levels, and then you do all these things and you go, I wasn't myself and I didn't get down the road. I'm just gonna be my fullest self, and it goes, not only did I not get down the road, it nearly killed me. So I'm talking about life and death, and I believe that a lot of people mentally and physically are going through the same thing. Yeah. So this is not just about, hey, just be your fullest. I believe it's ruining us. Yeah, because somebody might think you're saying that as hyperbole. It nearly killed me. Like, you would say it nearly killed you. Yeah, my counselor said, I'm surprised you're still alive. Yeah. Just on all the stuff you stuffed, internalized, and talk about. And that's from Detroit upbringing through whiteness. Yeah. Church racism, prejudice, academic things that, legally I could have took schools to court for the things but you just stuff it. You're like, I guess this is what we do. Yeah. How do you know if you are a bad magician, as it pertains to like a black person in a role that's trying to make it work and it's just not working? Do you think there's any signs that somebody could go, man, I'm not, because a lot of people, I think with our Christian jargon, we go, well, I'm just trying to be faithful, Adam. I picked a role and I'm just trying to be faithful. Yeah, I'm not my full self, but Christ laid down. It's like we have a lot of lines to justify why we kill off our culture and kill off ourselves. So like, what would you say to somebody? That's the coin drop. And I know it's in this hand. Right. First, I would say Christ laid down his life. He still was the person he was made to be. Yeah. So don't confuse
that is
dying
so
with personality.
Okay, that's a word, because that is a word. He actually ruffled a lot of feathers by coming into the establishment as himself, but still resting on the fact that he knew he was the Son of God.
Yeah. He was his full personality. Yeah, like this brother didn't have a personality. He was
Thomason.
funny. People wanted him around. He was the life of the party.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Pharisees had some jealousy about that.
Yeah.
They wanted him at weddings. Lepers wanted him around. So, I think you got to reverse engineer and say, okay, what are the passions? What are the expressions? And do I see myself having to curb that in an arena?
Yeah.
And I'm just I'm getting back to my God is big. So I have a big guy, big creative creator. I just don't believe. No one's going to convince me that he created you for you to stuff yourself. So if you have to stuff yourself, I believe God wants who you are to be expressed, because it goes back to him. This ain't about just mere self-esteem.
Yeah.
And personal.
That's true.
Personal gratification. I go, if we are his poem, his masterpiece, and we can't reveal the full masterpiece, then the master doesn't get the full worship.
That's very true. Yeah. So if I have to continue to take this poem and edit it, then it's not even the full picture of what God intended for you to display. Yeah,
and I go, that's against him. Like, that's against his nature and why he creates. That's like saying, the sunset and the sun is so beautiful, but because people can't handle its beauty, that we should edit it. He goes, no, let the sun shine.
Yeah.
You adjust to the sun. You adjust to the sunset.
Woo! They'll adjust. I've heard that.
Yeah.
That's like the hood version of that beautiful
the God
stated.
you.
Yes, the God
Not
you.
the fleshly you.
Not the do you boo boo. The God you boo boo.
Yeah, people out here smacking each other like, I'm just doing me.
Right.
Adam said so.
Right. Okay, so I do want to talk to you about another chapter that I found very problematic.
All right.
But I'm sure y'all will think it's beautiful, but as his wife, I got to talk about it.
Oh, it's hilarious.
The chapter is called The Price is Wrong.
Very wrong. This is the biggest creative L in my life.
But here's the thing. I want to know, even before we talk about this, I stand by my decision to this day.
You shouldn't.
Okay.
That's
do you want
pride.
To fight? No,
I don't want to fight. That is pride.
Okay, let's talk about it.
We didn't get on the show.
Okay, let's. They don't know The Price is Wrong. So y'all, let me tell y'all. Since I was
give it the biggest preface. I love this. Give it, little girl.
Mama's house. Aunt Ruby Jewel. Everybody.
Bob Barker, Skinny Microphone.
Yes, we watched The Price is Right.
I did too. Praise
before The
God
Young and the Restless.
For all that.
All I ever wanted to do in life was be on The Price is Right. And we went to LA for our that was our 1-year wedding anniversary. And I was pregnant. I was very newly pregnant, still very nauseous and sick. But the one thing I wanted to do was go on The Price is Right. And so we did. And Adam writes about this. But
we got our butts up at
we got
too
there at 4
early in the morning. 4 a.m., y'all.
To go be to stand in line to be on The Price is Right.
And here's the thing. I am in. So I'm not even tripping on the 4 a.m.
We could have got up at 3. We would have got up at 3 a.m.
We still wouldn't have got on.
Okay, so you're already ruining the story.
I'm just saying, I had no problem getting up early in the morning. I had no problem standing in line.
Yes.
You did not bend when the discernment causes us.
Okay, so we go stand in line at 4 a.m. with the rest of the excited people. I'm very pregnant to go beyond The Price is Right.
Yes.
And it's a very long line. Even by getting there at 4 a.m., it's still very long. We tried to get there earlier, but LA traffic, we still got there at, what felt, kind of late to me because I was very excited. And you can read it in the book, the very long story short, around 6 a.m., I don't know, when the sun's coming up, I'm pregnant, and it's getting close time for me to eat. Now, I'm in the phase of pregnancy where every time I get something to eat, I eat 2 bites of it, and I'm either not hungry or it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Right. So you remember the story better because clearly the bitterness has stuck with you enough to put it in a book.
It's an L.
13 years later.
It's a creative L.
So what happens? It's time to go find me some food, right?
It's time to go find my wife, who I know she's not going to like the options available at 6
a.m.
caveats. No, that's the
that's
story.
That's important to you? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm off. And I go, all right, I'm off to get this food.
Yes. Left me in line, which is good. I'm waiting. I'm holding it down.
Here's why that's important. I'm going to get food that I know she's not going to eat. So therefore, when I see the signs for a prominent movie and I follow these people and they allow me to be an extra to go into the extra area, and then there's food that I know my wife will like.
This brother is signing up to be an extra in a film while I'm standing in line for the price of it. You've already detoured. That's what you don't understand. You already detoured from the plan.
No, in my mind, I'm thinking.
You let your heart go astray.
No. This is the thing. In my mind, I'm thinking she's not gonna like the food that I bring back. So the first thing wasn't even about getting in the movie. The first thing was, oh, they got food that she would like. The extra is just a side bonus.
He wouldn't have even seen that food had he not been moseying on over in the wrong place.
Well, I was moseying to try to. Ain't many places open at that
That's
time
true.
we were walking.
Okay.
So I see lights. It wasn't many lights on, and then I see people walking towards this light.
Right.
So at least you're gonna ask me, hey, or something. But then as I got closer, I know the signs for like when they're, marking off a place to shoot film. So when you see these signs repetitively, you go, oh, they're shooting a movie.
Right.
It's California.
Right.
It's probably a good movie.
Yeah.
So I walk over there, and they say, like, extra? I'm like, yeah. They say, extra is this way.
Oh, my gosh.
So I'm just walking as I walk.
Right. Right.
And here's the spread. And so in my head, I go like, man, she's going to like this. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't expecting us to get out of line when I returned, but I was expecting you right around like 10 or 11, maybe 10.
Yeah.
Because probably 9. That would have been 5 hours out there. I'm like, okay, don't tell you.
He thought I would give up.
Not even give up. Make a discerning call. Like, this ain't happening.
You never know until it's over. Y'all, I feel like my story is follow your dreams, even if they end in upset. That's what it is. You got to make it to the end. Today, I still feel good about this because I knew for sure that I couldn't get in.
How do you feel? You didn't get in. You didn't get food. You didn't eat the food.
So
it was a creative ill. There was nothing fun that happened. I go, how do you stand by that?
So here's the thing, though. He actually makes it, even though I don't like the story, because I still stand by it to this day because I followed my dream. But here's what happened, and here's the tie-in that he makes that I love. We actually got very close to getting in, and we were like, we're the lucky ones. We're right here.
I'm talking about cliche close.
Cliche.
The rope
close.
is.
We are have our hands on the rope. I think at first it was like 6 people, and they're like, y'all, we're about to wrap this up. You're not gonna make it. And like, except for you guys, y'all are gonna get in. Don't worry about it. So we're like, well, this is it. My dreams are coming true. And Ruby Jewel is gone. She's with the Lord, but she would be so proud looking down that I made onto the Price is Right. But then there was a rule that we didn't know about, that if a large group of people came, because those shows, they like to, have all these big groups, then they took precedent over the rest of us.
Yeah, they could jump the line. 30, 40 people. So
we get to the front of the line. They say, don't worry, you guys are in. A bus pulls up with 30 senior citizens. I don't remember what it was, but it was like people, they had matching T-shirts. They did everything it takes to sleep in and get on a bus and still make the prices right. And they got in and they fill it up. And then I think it was like, okay, we'll let a couple more of y'all in. And literally like on a sad TV show, they put the rope down in front of me and Adam. It is so sad. We were the last people. Like,
oh my God.
Fire hazard, you can't come. There's just no way to squeeze you in. Adam tried the old, well, she's pregnant. They're like, oh, but we don't care. And then we walked away. So we don't need to talk about that. We need to talk about the tie-in. I stand by it. You follow your dreams until the rope comes down.
Don't listen to
over
this
your
woman.
face.
You have discernment to alter your dreams because you can still do something fun.
But again, I say this is why I stand by it. As a pregnant woman at early stages, there ain't no way I would have stood around and been an extra for hours. I'd have been like, all right, y'all have to do some editing because I
No,
ain't
you could dip out on that. You like, mine was about the food. That was the foundational thing. Getting food that I know my wife will eat. Not the pancakes with onion residue from a diner.
That is, even without being pregnant, I'm very
it's just like she's not gonna eat this thing.
But I think the beautiful tie-in that you make, the picture that I actually don't think I even saw really clearly until the second time, because I was so busy raising my fist like a grandpa at the story, was that even though we had been there, when somebody else came, it didn't matter. We had to go. Yeah. And you tie this into birth order.
Yeah, birth order. And
he does it beautifully in the book. So you really do have to read the book because I'm botching this. But I just want you to talk a little bit about why birth order matters. And it's something I don't think we pay attention enough to or talk about at all. And did Don talk to you about this or what? Talk to me about
he did.
That.
He just said birth order matters. My therapist, he just asked me, what birth order are you? In my story, I'm the third. And then when you get to, unplanned child, mother and father say, hey, you were a child that wasn't parented. We had to entrust you to the Lord. So when you start putting in all those things, he said that will color the way you see life. Yeah. And I tied into the birth order metaphorically of African Americans in this country, and being overlooked, so to speak. Yeah. And
because as a caveat, you actually are the third child. However, your sister had a child, our beautiful nephew. Right. And so because she was young, he came into the house, and that kind of makes him now the baby. Yeah. And so there's a little bit of overlooking there. Yeah. Unintentional.
Just unintentional, and what happened needed to happen. My sister needed care in high school, and then my nephew at the time, really, he became the fourth child. Yeah. That's really what it is. So when you have what I would say life trauma happen, you got to respond to it. Yeah. So that to me is a metaphor of, or I was saying a metaphor of how blacks have been treated in this country. Despite the effort, people jump the line. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And I don't want to juxtapose other people's trauma, but we're overdue for reparations. Right. I do believe in that. Yeah.
And that's true. And it's always shocking to me. And like you said, this is not a comparison to trauma, because I think that anyone that has received reparations has deserved it. Yeah. And yet when you think about how wrong they did the Japanese in America and the internment camps, and yet even though I don't even think their reparations were enough. No, it was small. I mean, it was terrible. Yeah. They lost everything, and it's like, okay, here's $15,000, whatever it was at the time, dollars. But it still is a shocking thing for black people. It was like, we haven't gotten anything.
Yeah, still.
Anything, So, I thought that was just a beautiful tie. And I think in counseling, it would do a lot of us some good to actually talk about our birth order, our gender in the midst of that birth order. Yeah. And I actually thought, I was like, wow, this is actually a true cheat code, because I think it's something that some of us need to go back and revisit.
Yeah, because it'll help you not put on to people what's not there. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to give everything away, but another anecdote that I have to talk about was the chapter called "Where Is My Car? Name the Pain." And it's really good how he ties this in. But I laughed when I read this. And this story is actually not funny at all. It's really sad. But it's so well written that I could actually see how sad he was. That's why I laughed. So it's not funny, but I don't want to ruin everything. But the basic premise is that Adam had a box Regal. Your mom got you this.
Holy Grail.
Holy Grail. So you're in high school. That's and you've never had your own car? Mm-mm. And so why did she get you a car?
She was recovering from a shooting that she was in, or that happened upon her. Yeah. And this allowed her to not, have to worry about, taking me places. And then at the same time, this Detroit city transportation, you taking it at night, for practices, taking it at night, in the morning, 6 in the morning. So for her, she felt it gave her some peace of mind as well.
Okay, so at this point, you're living with your dad, though. Your mom had got you this car. She gifted you a box Regal. And I want you to tell the people what a box Regal is, because if they Google box Regal like I did, I got boxes and IKEA cabinets, which I think this is obviously a hood term. It's a Buick Regal. It's a real car. Yeah. But why are y'all calling it the box Regal? That don't sound. That's not on the internet. You can't. Nobody. They want to buy this because you were so in love with it. They would not find it
because it's it's shaped like a box,
right?
And that it's just.
That's like a hood dude's car. Like my stepdad growing up had a Cutlass Supreme, and it looked very much like a box Regal. And he cleaned this thing every single Saturday, inside, outside.
Turtle wax.
I don't know what that is, but I know that he Adam's pain in this book reminds me of how he used to feel about this car. Yeah. So you get the box Regal.
Get the box Regal.
And even to this day, Adam says if he gets rich,
the box Regal.
He's getting a box Regal. You gonna soup it up? You might just go old school.
Yeah.
Is this like a trauma? You want it back, or is it you think?
Oh, I would want it back. I think it is that good. It is an easy car to fix and things like that. But it's just, I think it's nice. It's cool, old school.
Amazing. I might ride around with you in your box.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's clean. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
What's funny is you might not have to get rich. This car, I may be able to go get this. Y'all listen to my podcast, subscribe. Maybe I can do some ads and I can go get out of a box Regal.
Hilarious.
But, so, without telling everything, you're living with your dad at the time, and you go outside in the morning to go get in your car. In your car.
For basketball practice.
To basketball practice, which that's a whole other thing. I'm sure you were late. But what happened?
It was an empty space.
It was empty. Your car was gone.
Yep. I looked in the front, looked in the back, looked in the alley. I don't know why I looked in the alley. Right. Just being hopeful.
Right. You have to. You have to hold out hope. Maybe somebody moved it to wash it for me, and they needed it to be in the alley.
Those nice criminals.
Right. So he instinctively calls his dad, and he says, "Dad, what do you say? Come look. Tell me what you see."
I said, look outside and tell me what you see.
And his dad says, who's a very chill man, bless his heart, so cool, so nonchalant. Adam's stepmother at this time is a police officer. Mm-hmm. So the dad, he just calls her name. He says, Mel, Adam's car's been stolen.
And I'm like, ah.
And the pain, I laugh so hard at this chapter because he really does beautifully paint the picture of just how painful it was.
Oh my gosh.
Like I've had my car broken into. I've had CDs stolen, my favorite shoes stolen. But I've never looked out there and it was gone.
Like it just was like, he took it.
What a Detroit cliche.
It is a Detroit cliche.
From your house. Like you weren't at the mall. They stole it off from the driveway.
Yeah, they just took it. So, it was the idea like, man, somebody would steal from me? What did I do?
Aw, you're so good. I love you. You're so good. But I love the tie because the chapter is called Where's My Car? But the subtitle is Name the Pain. And I thought that was really good because until your dad said, Mel, Adam's car was stolen.
I did not want to admit the inevitable.
Right. Would you ever have said it out loud? I guess you would have had to. But you said it in the book. I almost feel like it really hits you when somebody else said it.
Oh no, yeah.
So I want you to talk about that. As far as the concept of permission to be black people for health need to name the pain.
Yeah, they need to name the pain. There's a lot of stuff that I just think is tough for us to. It's just tough for us to admit that wasn't there for us growing up as children, from parents or situations. And we think to acknowledge that is to not acknowledge the good that the parents did. So we think it cancels it out. Yeah. So we only could, because here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to acknowledge, making much out of a little of what our parents had in a tragic situation. Mm-hmm. And non-intentionally, still in tragic situations and making the most out of little, trauma still can happen upon the people who are subjected to it. Right. And we got to be able to delineate, to talk about those pains, is not to disregard the efforts and the love. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I imagine, especially like as a black son, you know, gosh, there's way too much I want to talk to you about, but your mom was shot 5 times when you were 12 years old. Yeah. And to, you know, I just think about the weight of that. And then as an adult, who could come back and say that she did anything wrong because she raised you in the midst of all that
fighting
pain,
for her life,
being a single mom, still having ways to provide for you over the years. Yeah. And let's forget about the mental and physical trauma that really would have been for her for decades. Right. You know, but even as a caveat that I want you to speak about in naming that pain, you told me personally, and this is actually not in the book, that you discovered recently in a conversation with your sister about after your mom was shot 5 times, you guys weren't sure if she would live. You went to school the next day.
Yeah, so I asked my sister, it's 12 years old, Dad left the home 6 months prior. And, you know, I said, Ange, did we have to go to school? I know we had to go to school pretty quickly. Did we have to go to school the next day? She said the next day. I go, the next day? She said the next day. And she said, I remember it. Like, we went to go see Mom, you know, she talks about seeing my mother with this, you know, dry crust on her mouth. And just, she was in bad shape. And I was like, why do we have to go to school? And she said, you know, a relative who was kind of assuming, let's just say, cover over us at this time. It says, you know, because you shouldn't put your life on hold because something bad happens to you. And when she said that, I go, that makes so much sense in a traumatic way because myself and my siblings, so older sister and older brother, we have different personalities, but all 3 of us are drivers because of that trauma of you don't put your life on hold. So we've never, like, 3 different personalities, we live like we can't put our life on hold for anything, like whether it's tragedy or joy and celebration. That's how it's been until I would say the last 3 years. And so when she said that, I go, that makes sense. Yeah. And it's sad because I believe a lot of black people live like that. You can't put your life on hold.
Wow. I mean, but it needs to be repeated. Your mom was shot 5 times.
Yeah, I was like, we don't get to put our life on hold for our mom? Yeah. For our mom.
And the relative wasn't being insensitive. I think they really thought that was the thing that was best for y'all.
That's the legacy of the trauma they came from. And then the legacy of their generation, former generation, going all the way back to, I mean, hell, it's why we are in Detroit, Michigan. Michigan was one of the refuge states where people made the great migration from the south to the north because of the lynchings and the hangings and things like that. So if you were thinking about it, you can't, people not running up to the north like, hey, how you feel? Right. How did that make you? It's like, no, we got to get out of it. You can't put your life on hold. Like, so-and-so got hung and burned. We can't mourn that right now. We got to go. So that's just a legacy passed down to us in our DNA, and we just carry it forward.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. Again, I'm not going to make this podcast about me, so I won't bring it up. But I look back at the traumas in my life and how, I went to school, or, you know, it just, and I think that's a ritual. I think a lot of people, black, brown, other, are just used to, and going on, and that's making us sick.
No, it is.
That's making us sad.
Making us lose our minds.
And it's making us, there's a rage, I think, that builds inside of you when you have to stuff. Then you try to get into marriage relationships, you try to get in friendships, you try to go to workplaces, and the truth is you can only stuff for so long.
Yeah. You can only stuff. And I had 2 people, but one that was very surprising, who passed at an early age. And I always think, I wonder, when Don said, I'm surprised you're still alive, because I had one guy friend, he was in perfect health, you know, grew up in Detroit, and he passed at 25. I'm talking about perfect health. And when they did the autopsy, they said there was no cause of his death. And I believe when Don says, I'm surprised you're still alive, I think that's what he's saying. I don't think we believe the body can give out because of trauma, like stress. We always think it has to be from some type of eating or disease. But that weight, like, say, for instance, I give it to you like this. There's one that we know of in reading, but then another one in the medical term. where Christ sweat drops of blood. But but if you look it up, albino rhino sweat drops of blood. They said the stress, they were trying to transport this albino rhino, and then the crane started to break.
Oh, I do.
And they said because the rhino was so stressed out, his sweat glands mixed with his blood, and it started to sweat drops of blood.
Wow.
And if it kept going, it would have died because of the stress. And so we don't see that as a. So imagine if you're internalizing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Your body just, I can't take it.
Yeah. That's true.
And I wonder if that's what happened to one of my friends, is that it's just so much internalization just killed him.
And when I read that, like naming that pain, not stuffing, it needs to become black to go to counseling.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford it, go to a friend that does and find out what they learned that day. And that's a cheat code,
Expression is the new black, man.
Yeah. So I won't give away too much more of the book. I did want to do one more thing. But at the very end of the book, I think not my favorite part of the book. I love the book, but at the very end, you give these cheat codes, but you do it with movies. It's almost like a game. Oh my God,
that was fun. Yeah.
You could turn this into a game, I think. But you talk about things that happen in movies,
right?
And but then you reference really quickly, not super long. You reference how that's just like a cultural blackness sort of. That's how we just see it as. But I want you to kind of expound on just two. I'm just gonna pick two. Yeah. I don't want because it was so fun to me. I wouldn't want somebody to ruin this to me. But 1988, Coming to America, and y'all, I've never been more excited about March 5th. Isn't that when Coming to America 2 is coming out?
Yes.
This is not an ad, but I have been waiting.
It's gonna be fun
since 1988 for Coming to America 2. But so you put in the book, and if you watch the movie, you know this scene. They have the golden arches. Oh, we have the golden arcs. They have the Big Mac. We have the Big Mick. And you say, this funny dialogue is the reality of what black men and women have seen as a success, copying the methods of whiteness to make it. So talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's true.
Funny, but Frantz Fanon in his book, Black Skin, White Mask, he talks about how black folks juxtapose their success up against the backdrop of whiteness. Yeah. And how that's limiting. No matter how much the white person has, you're still limiting yourself to what someone else has.
That's so true.
Their backdrop. And so I was just looking at through film, Come to America, that's the famous line. So famous. But if you go watch that was a mindset of that time to, we're going to be the black version of McDonald's. Yes. I'm going to be the black Mozart, the black Bill Gates. It's always up against the backdrop instead of saying, hey, I'm gonna just be great, and it may supersede them.
Right. It's almost like you limit yourself because you never even think, you don't even hope that it could supersede.
Exactly.
You just want to be another version of McDonald's.
Yes.
McDowell's.
Right.
Okay, so another one that's a little bit more serious, but boy, this one gets me because it's if you think that police brutality and all that stuff is fake, it's amazing to watch these old movies where the same thing is repeating. Yeah. But you talk about 1989, that's I was a little kid, right? Yeah. Do the Right Thing. In a riot outside of Sal's Pizzeria. Sal was this Italian, New York, guy in this Spike Lee movie. Spike Lee's character throws a trash can through the window yelling, "Radio!" Radio. The police kill Radio Raheem through a chokehold. Yep. Despite the crowd's pleas for them to let him go. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Times 10, even today? Yeah. Crazy. The onlookers want to let out their pain. They cannot take out their pain on the white police officers, so they take it out on Sal, who's also white. Sal has insurance. He'll be okay. Riot is the voice of the unheard. Isn't that a quote from Martin Luther King? Yeah. So that is, to me, obvious, but go for it.
Yeah, I just thought it was poignant of Spike to put so many things in there. Right. So obviously growing up in his time, he knew those chokeholds were being used in that police brutality, that force. Right. And it's like, Sal, you got insurance, man. It's fine. Like you're gonna be okay. We got to take it out on something. And we ain't going to take it out. At that time, it was the assumption we're not taking it out on our stuff, so we're going to take it out on yours. Right. Because you do have the white privilege to bounce back.
Right.
we don't have the privilege to bounce back.
Yeah. And it's literally, I can think of Eric Garner, I can think of George Floyd, people standing around, hey, let him go. It's as though Spike Lee could have wrote that movie in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, he could redo it, drop it now.
And then what happens? They go and mess up Sal's store. We go to Atlanta, to Dallas, wherever, and people see it as like a riot, thugs. Most people go to protest. It's usually like a small percentage of people that want to burn down Sal's store. But the point is, you're like, I can't beat up the police, or I'll be like Radio Raheem.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
And so Sal has insurance. So that's not, it's not that I condone, but I'm saying I think Martin Luther King was very prophetic to say, rioting is the voice of the unheard. Mm-hmm. Powerful book, beautiful book. I really hope y'all get it. It's Black History Month. You know what I'm saying? By Black. And I think that it's helpful, not just for Black people. I really feel like I read this book and I'm like, I should be my full self. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like a lot of people get that.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you having me.
Oh, of course. Thank you for bearing with me. Adam is my guest that always makes me nervous because he sits here and watches me fumble with cameras and microphones. And, you know, I've never had an author. He's my most famous guest.
Hey.
Anyway, thank y'all for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it.